All right, welcome, Geoff. It's great to have you on the first episode of Off the Pitch. This is a GISB initiative, a new podcast that we've actually launched. And the reason for this podcast is that we are going to interview sports industry pioneers in their respective fields so that people can actually learn from people just like yourselves on how to create a meaningful career within the sports industry. I'll just introduce you to everyone watching this podcast as well. So Geoff, first of all, is a very, very vital member of the GISB family. Geoff is a sports marketing and communications expert where he's worked with the likes of FIFA, UEFA, FIBA, and he's also on the board of tourism for Northern Ireland. So Geoff, welcome. I couldn't think of anyone better actually to kick this initiative off than you.
Thank you so much for asking me to come on and to be your first ever podcast. I'm very honoured to be here, and I love the work that you're doing at GISB, so delighted to be here.
Right, so Geoff, we've seen a large rise in terms of viewership for sports across the globe. What strategies or what frameworks do you believe are best for leagues and franchises now, not just to engage fans, but to develop fans as well?
Great question, and I actually think having a framework is really important rather than just having lots of ideas. But I'm going to touch on a framework and then I will touch on some ideas within this framework. So in 2016, myself and a colleague, David Fowler, created a fan engagement model. And that is a framework where we talk about engaging fans on match day and non-match day, at the site and not at the site. And traditionally what has happened is many clubs, leagues and associations just engage their fans on the site, i.e. at the stadium, on match day. So basically they're at the Emirates, they are at the Etihad. Now what we're starting to see, and what we talked about in 2016, is that that's only one small bit of a quadrant of a framework. You've got to engage, what about those fans who on game day but cannot make it to the site? And in terms of certain clubs, that could be thousands, hundreds of thousands, even millions of fans. So you've got to engage them, but then you've got to engage people not only at the venue when it's not, when there's no game, but you've also got to engage them in the community. So to give you some ideas within this area and what is happening, and some ideas on site at the stadium is things such as what we're starting to see a lot more of: contactless, ticketless, being able to order your food to your seat, fan engagement, fan zones. All of those type of activities are happening to really engage and entertain the fan at the stadium. Outside of that, on game day but not at the stadium, there's a lot in the area of OTT, and also even putting games through VR with a lot more of watch parties and that integrated approach whenever people are watching the stream. If it is not on game day but at the site, that's all about things, at the site, that's all about things such as stadium tours, museum tours. But the one I think is the one that's missed out the most is non-game day and not at the venue. And that's about having a deep community engagement in the community over a sustained period of time as possible. So what I'm starting to see in that model, people are now starting to do AR, VR, like the NBA. People are doing different camera angles so that people can engage with the content different, whether that's on game day at the site or not. People are now starting to look at the whole area of bitcoins and fan tokens. People are looking really in this area of OTT and that direct to fans, but making that really interactive, not just a live stream. There's lots of content that are happening, both highlights, behind the scenes, short and long form documentaries, and a lot more in the area where the players are being engaged. So those are just some ideas within that framework.
Thank you, Geoff. Actually, that's fantastic. And I love the way that you've actually broken it down into two quadrants and not just focusing on the game day or not just focusing on digital activations, but actually merging the two and making sure the fan is consumed all year round. And speaking of leagues, just to jump into my next question here, we've seen a rapid increase in number of leagues in India. Now there's a massive problem that we face in India. Well, it can be a problem or not a problem, where the leagues are not very long. the leagues don't last for more than 5 to 6 months. So actually to engage the fan for year round, even when the league is not on, that is a barrier I think that Indian sports, maybe franchises or leagues, are still to sort of cross. So what would you recommend these franchises and these leagues learn from the likes, just like you mentioned, of the NBA or the Premier League, where the fan is engaged year round?
Great question, and I think what we'd have to say is Indian sport is evolving at a rapid rate and in a positive way. So this is just part of their journey. I think for me, to make sport deeper, you need more events. That is what we're around, the actual event, and then that you can do so much around that event in terms of digital content, etc. So I think number one, they need to widen the season. That's relatively easy for me to say, but they need to look at that. Whether they increase more actual league games, as an example, or whether they bring in maybe cup tournaments, maybe it's a knockout round robin tournament, but something else that brings and extends a season from, let's say, 5 to 7 or 8 months, and that just starts to widen it out. I understand there's other issues that brings with it, but when they're organising more events, there's more things, and it keeps the fan active because those events are on. So that's either increasing the league or it's bringing on new cup tournaments. I think without doubt, one way, especially outside of the fixture list, is to look at documentaries, documentaries that are filmed maybe during the season that can be distributed outside of the season to keep fans engaged. So we've seen that obviously with the Michael Jordan on Netflix. So that type of and the All or Nothing series on Amazon Prime. So that engagement type content on that documentaries, I think, would be important. I think you could start to bring in areas such as esports or gaming, not only during the season but outside of the season, fantasy gaming to a certain extent, but definitely esports, and doing maybe esports tournaments to widen out the brand and the activity. But for me, I think one of the biggest things that needs to happen is not only are they looking at, if you take the ISL or I-League, at the top clubs at the elite level, but each club needs to have a real community outreach within their local base, and that community outreach might be 2 20-week blocks of training in 100 different locations around their community. Because what that does, that means their coaches are going into the community, they're doing coaching sessions over a sustained period of time, the community gets engaged with them, they can even see and maybe talent spot potential great talent, let alone the activity that they're doing and the engagement in the community. And that's something I think that really should be looked at. Yes, there's a cost behind it, I understand that, but that's where football really comes alive for me. In football, if you take that as a sport, is that deep community engagement for a longer period of time.
Thank you, Geoff. That's a very interesting take as well. And I know Indian football is very, very close to your heart. And just leading on to that, my question to you would be, how would you if you were consulting an ISL franchise or an I-League franchise, how would you guide them in terms of building out their brand? Because we have to also understand they are competing with brands like a Manchester United, like a Liverpool. And as a football fan, when I hear Manchester United, I think of last-minute comebacks, flying wing-backs. There is an identity. We always win. When I think of Barcelona, I think of beautiful football. I think of total football. I think of community in terms of what they've done with UNICEF. But Indian football seems to lack that identity, not just within the league, but the franchises as well. So what do you think is the first step that these franchises should take in terms of building out their authentic brand?
Yeah, great point that you made, and a number of great examples that you've pointed out. I think for me, it gets back to that area of what is your brand as a, for example, ISL club. So, some people might say, well, I'm here to play football, as an example, but you're not, that is obviously one of the bits, yes, but as a brand, you're more to the fans that support you. You're something that has brought these fans, these people that maybe didn't know each other in the past, together. You're the glue that has brought these different people from all over a certain area together, is that club. So you've got to, I think, really identify. If you take Everton Football Club is known as the People's Club. And that's why, because it's all into the community. It's serving the community. It's not the other way about, where the fans serve the club. It's actually the club serves the fans. So what is the brand? And I don't mean just a logo. What is the brand? What's the essence? What does the club mean to people? Why would a fan put a tattoo of the club's logo on their arm? What brings that I am, that type of passion regarding your club? So to me, I think clearly defined brands. I think then a real clear engagement strategy. So don't turn on the tap, turn off the tap. So turn on the tap whenever you're playing, turn off the tap when you're not playing, because that's just in and out. And all you're doing is engaging people in a small period of time. So how are you engaging the fans? I think from then the other bit that I mentioned before is, what are you doing in and for the community? So what community programs are you doing that are deep community programs? I'm involved as a UEFA A license in my local football club, and we are doing things in our community that's talking to, as an amateur league club, 200 kids every single week. So these 200 clubs or 200 kids, they are not only getting fit, they're getting the benefit of sport, but their parents are then consumed into the club, and then people start to buy merchandising, they support the club, etc., etc. So what are those deep community grassroots activities? And on the back of that, then you can look to sell merchandising, but the merchandising not only sales, but you want people to wear it. The way people would wear a Man United top, a Liverpool top, a Barcelona top, you want people to wear your top, because that's a walking billboard. And you want people to go, ah. So merchandising has more than just a selling, making a money bit. So those are a couple of the bits that I would probably say. But in essence, and I'm going to talk a little bit maybe airy-fairy, what is the reason for being for the club? What is their real essence? And if it is just to win football games, then I would be concerned. Yes, people always want to win a trophy, but not everybody can win a trophy. But if you look at, for example, Man United, at Arsenal, they have a massive fan base, but not all the time do they win trophies. But there's history, there's heritage, there's a belief, there's a belonging, there's a value. And what is that happening, and how are you engaging your fans on a regular basis around those values?
Fantastic. Thank you, Geoff. What you said was so spot on. We've seen cricket to be a religion in India, and I think the reason for that is that it brings the community together and it helps youth develop, not just in terms of sport, but it also provides goodwill and value in the people's lives. Just to touch on community engagement as well, I think India is a very unique country. It is a diamond in the rough, where in a city where I stay, like in Mumbai, where we have close to 45 million people, we have over 100 languages spoken across the nation. Community engagement can be complicated because not everyone is from the same cloth. So in terms of community engagement, what do you recommend should be the club's first step? I understand that you've spoken about grassroots football, but what other activities do you think India can do, or the football clubs in India can do now, to sort of grow their brand across the city?
So I think one thing is they've got to sit back and say, why are they doing it? So that is, to have they can't just go and do something. They've got to figure out, why are they doing it and what are they looking to get out of it? Then they create a plan, and that plan allows them to see what is the cost and also the benefit to them. So that plan. But I think they've got to also look at the standard of coaching and coach education. So the standard of coaches in their club, because you cannot have a bad coach going out and coaching community people, because that then has a negative effect. So you've got to, I think from my point of view, really make sure you've got a great product. So you've got a really high quality coach that's being well trained. They've got a set way of play. They've got a coaching handbook that the club is behind. They have a way that they've got to behave with kids. They've got a way they've got to behave in the community. All of those. So there's a set way of doing things from that deep community aspect. Then I think once they're doing those community aspects, then they've got to make sure that they're promoting and telling other people about that the community programs are on, what they're doing, and how they are benefiting the local community through digital content, small documentaries following maybe a coach or something like that. So I do think that there needs to be a lot discussed internally before somebody just goes, and does it. And really what they want to try and do is part of that might be to link in with other community organisations in their area. Because if you can link in with other community organisations, you're strengthening things, you're making a much more stronger impact. And then you've got to you've got to look and then see your government. So if that local government is having maybe issues, let's say it's around crime, maybe they can say, well, look, do you know what? Football can play its part, cricket can play its part to tackle crime if you help us to fund some programs. So then you're getting into that NGO type space, but you're giving back to the local community.
That's incredible, Geoff. I think the reason why everyone are in our industries, and our industry is essentially to give back to society and help people's lives and change people's lives through sport. So thank you very much for sharing that. Just to stay on both our favorite topics of football, we've now established that Indian football is growing, and as they say, the elephant has finally woken up. I wanted to ask you, there's been an increase in not just in terms of viewership of Indian football, but we've also seen partnerships, strategic partnerships, and a lot of foreign entities now have sort of witnessed the rise of the ecosystem of football in India and are looking to now enter India. How do you think these foreign entities can actually take advantage of the growth of football within the country?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm a club from Europe and I want to access the Indian market, doing a partnership with a club is really good. For me, I'll be looking at who is those clubs that've got a good fan base, who are those clubs that have got a good community, and whose ethos and whose values link in with my ethos and values. And at the end of the day, that's a great vehicle then to get in and to go through to reach the Indian marketplace. Now, if I'm a club, there'll be certain things you'll want to do. You will want to give something back. So in other words, helping football to develop in the country. So that is really important. You can't just do it for commercial reasons. So that is one. Number two then is the commercial reasons. So how can you get the followers of a club that you're partnering with to follow you? And that might be to follow you on social media, to engage with you, potentially buy a bit of merchandising for you, but to be fans, almost to be the second club. So the first club will be the Indian club, the second club might be another club in Europe because of that partnership. Then you've got coaching exchange programs where they can learn from each other. It's not just the one way. They can learn from each other to improve the coaching standards, but then they can also look to improve off the field. So whether that is fan engagement, marketing, sponsorship, and sharing those knowledges and sharing those activities in those respective areas. And then suppose the final bit is to set up maybe some community or soccer camps type programs on a regular basis. So working with people has to be multifaceted, but it has to start at why am I doing it? How can I benefit the club in India? And there will be a commercial angle to it as well. But in essence, it's engaging with their fan base to make you become the second club. It's helping on coach education, helping on football development, helping on community and camps and that program, and then all of those other bits and pieces that I've mentioned before.
That That is incredible, Geoff, because we've seen so many entities across the years enter India and come in for, like you said, the ROI, but they miss out on the RO, which is the return on objective. So there's not really an objective set for the country. And I think if you're able to crack India, we've seen what the IPL has done. Absolutely staggering numbers in terms of viewership and sponsorship and commercialization. So that is a very, very interesting point that you've shared, Geoff. My next question to you is around the same lines, where if you are a foreign entity now looking to enter the market, how important do you think it is to actually create physical assets in India and then connect your digital strategy, which is of course your go-to or your first move to enter the industry, enter India, sorry. How would you sort of look at connecting those two and then look at commercialization in the country?
Yeah, great question. I mean, for me, it has to be, you're there for football. So it has to be, if it's a football type sport, therefore you've got to, stay true to that. So for me, it's got to be, for example, coaching and knowledge exchange on the coach education. It's got to be summer camps and summer programs. It's got to be community programs that the club is actually doing. In other words, those are all physical. So coach education training, actual community, but when I mean community, that means branded, if it's a Premier League club in England, branded, joint branded clothing. So it's not just, because otherwise it'll be missed. So when they do different camps or different community programs, it must be really clear. It must be pitchside branding. It must be branding on the t-shirts. It must be branding on the digital, all elements to make sure that the connection between the club and the external club, i.e. someone in Europe, and also the players in India is really clear. Because if those aren't clear, then it might be just a little bit of a waste of time for the European club. So they need to invest to ensure their brand comes across, but again, in conjunction with their partner in India.
Thank you, Geoff. That was phenomenal. I think that a lot of people who are looking to enter India, a lot of organizations are going to view this podcast. So I think they might just give you a call straight after viewing this, which leads me to the last part, Geoff, of this podcast. A lot of students also will be viewing this. A lot of people who do wish to emulate your career path one day. What advice would you have for young budding professionals that now want to create a meaningful career within the fan engagement sector of the industry?
Yeah, for me, I think number one, get an education. So you're with great people at GISB, get an education. Number two, volunteer. Go and volunteer for an ISL or an I-League or a cricket. Go and get your, I don't mean selling burgers, and there's no problem there. I mean, if you're into fan engagement, get volunteer experience in fan engagement, and you may have to do it voluntary to get that experience initially, but get that experience through volunteering. Network. Whether it's people like myself or other people, go and network with people and learn from people. Get a good mentor, somebody who will be able to guide your career. Read lots in the likes of Sports Media Pro, Sports Techie, GISB. I've got a blog as well. Read, just to understand what is happening. Attend online conferences. Go on to online conferences, listen to what other people are saying, webinars, and then simply just follow people on Twitter or Instagram. My Twitter is Geoff WNJ Wilson, WNJ Wilson. Follow people like myself and see what they're posting and learn from them. But one thing's for sure, I'm not an expert. I'm just an average guy. But what I'm doing, I'm learning from everybody, and we can all learn together.
Thank you so much, Geoff. It was great to have you on the first episode of this podcast. And you do know that whenever you come to Mumbai, you have a home in our campus in Mumbai. So look forward to seeing you very, very soon in India.
Thank you very much, and wish you every success. And to those that are listening, what I would say, working in sport, the passion that you have working in, it's an amazing industry. So, never lose sight of wanting to work in a sport if you've started, obviously, your career and education on it. So it is an amazing industry to be involved in. So wish you all every success.